She laughed at the myths of human warriors, until she saw one fight HFY. They were supposed to be slow, weak, and incapable of serious combat. But today, Zyra would see for herself, and perhaps finally decide whether the myths were worth a single thought or a single smile. She walked through the gleaming corridors of the observation dome with her retinue, each step echoing softly against the polished metal floors. Her boots clicked with confidence, a sound that matched the self-assured rhythm of her heart. Around her, the other Lyrath's nobles whispered, giggled, and pointed at the images displayed on the wide, holographic screens. They were here to watch the humans in action, humans who were supposedly warriors but whose abilities had never been proven. "This will be amusing," Zyra said softly to her second-in-command, her violet eyes glinting with quiet amusement. "Watch how they fail." Unlike the soaring spires and intricate towers of Lyrath's, Earth's base was grounded and practical. Metal buildings, reinforced structures, and wide training grounds stretched across the horizon. At first glance, it seemed almost quaint. Humans moved in small formations, carrying weapons that looked fragile compared to the energy lances and plasma shields Zyra had seen in her world. She could already hear herself laughing at the absurdity of it all, but then her attention shifted. One human, standing slightly apart from the others, moved differently. His posture was calm yet commanding, each step precise, each gesture deliberate. His name, she had learned, was Captain Elias Kane. From the start, there was something in the way he observed the base, gave instructions, and moved among his team that made him different. Zyra tilted her head, studying him carefully. Perhaps, she thought, it was simply luck. Perhaps humans were occasionally capable of a clever moment. The training exercises began. Humans ran drills, tested weapons, and practiced maneuvers. Zyra watched with growing amusement. Many stumbled, some fumbled with their equipment, and she almost laughed aloud at the apparent clumsiness of it all. Yet, Captain Kane moved with ease, coordinating the troops, correcting mistakes, and maintaining an almost unnatural composure under pressure. She frowned, annoyed at herself for noticing. "Interesting," she whispered, though her tone was more annoyed than impressed. "He is competent, but it is only practice. Watch, the real challenge will show them for what they truly are." Their ship swooped down with deadly precision, unleashing bursts of plasma energy that sent human defenses scrambling. The myths, Zyra thought, would finally be confirmed. They would crumble under pressure. But the humans did not collapse. Captain Kane's voice rang out clearly even over the alarms. "Defend the control towers. Protect the civilians. Do not fall back." He was moving into action, not retreating. He darted across the open training grounds, coordinating his soldiers, directing reinforcements, and even intercepting incoming projectiles with calculated precision. The other nobles murmured among themselves, some confused, some intrigued. Zyra, however, could not look away. She felt a flicker of something she had never expected: curiosity, tinged with unease. The first clash was intense. Human soldiers used cover, coordinated attacks, and improvised strategies on the fly. Zyra saw something she had never thought possible: humans thinking faster than she expected, adapting to situations that no training could fully prepare them for. Captain Kane led from the front, facing dangers head-on, and yet he moved with a calmness that contrasted sharply with the panic she had anticipated. Zyra's mind raced. How could these creatures, so small and fragile, survive against the Vorath swarm? Their weapons were basic, their defenses minimal, yet they fought with ingenuity and courage. Her amusement began to fade, replaced by something she refused to name. Respect, perhaps, but she would not admit it, not yet. One of the Vorath raiders charged directly at a squad of human soldiers, its massive claws glinting under the sunlight. They froze for a moment, but Kane was already there, intercepting the attacker with a perfectly timed strike that sent it reeling. A human soldier, previously thought clumsy, used the distraction to take down another raider with an improvised trap. The battlefield seemed chaotic, yet every movement had purpose, every action counted. Zyra leaned forward, her hands gripping the edge of the observation deck. Her heart raced, not from fear, but from a sudden, unbidden excitement. She had never witnessed anything like this. Humans were supposed to be weak, incapable of surviving in the galaxy's deadliest conflicts. And yet, here they were, holding their ground against an overwhelming force, not just surviving, but showing initiative, courage, and adaptability that rivaled the finest warriors of her world. She felt her pride prickle. She had come here to observe weakness, to confirm what everyone in her society already believed. Instead, she found herself questioning centuries of assumptions. The myths of human warriors, the tales she had laughed at, suddenly carried weight she could no longer ignore. Captain Kane moved like a force of nature, guiding his troops, protecting civilians and countering the raiders, attacks with strategy that Zyra could barely comprehend. He was not the strongest physically, nor did he wield the deadliest weapon, yet his mind was sharp, his instincts impeccable. Every decision he made seemed to anticipate the enemy's next move, turning chaos into order with calm precision. The battle raged on, and Zyra's disbelief grew. How could such a small species display this level of skill and courage? She studied his every move, every command, every subtle gesture, and she began to understand why the myths had been told. Humans were underestimated for a reason. They were exceptional in ways few could predict. Yet Zyra's pride held her tongue. She could not allow herself to admit admiration, not yet. She straightened, composed herself, and tried to focus on what she had come for, proof of human weakness. But as she watched Kane leap from one strategic point to another, taking down raiders, protecting his team, and never faltering, she realized that the proof she sought would not come easily. The first wave of the Vorath swarm retreated temporarily, regrouping for another assault. Humans took a moment to recover, tending to the injured and repairing damaged equipment. Kane stood amidst them, scanning the horizon, assessing their defenses, and planning the next move. Zyra felt a flicker of something she had never expected, respect, tinged with awe. She whispered under her breath, almost to herself, perhaps there is truth to the stories. The humans had proven themselves capable in a single skirmish, but the real test was still ahead. Would they survive the next wave? Would they rise to the challenge fully, or would their limits finally be revealed? Zyra's eyes narrowed with anticipation. She had come here to witness weakness, to confirm what she already knew. Instead, she had discovered something extraordinary, something that challenged everything she had believed. The battle had just begun, and she was already captivated by a human warrior who moved like lightning, thought like a master, and fought with courage that rivaled the greatest legends of the galaxy. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the battlefield, Zyra realized one thing. This story, the story of human warriors, was far from over. And she, who had once laughed at the myths, would be watching every step, every strike, every moment of courage that these humans displayed. For the first time in her life, Zyra felt a spark of something she could not name, an awareness that humans were not to be underestimated, that legends were often rooted in truth, and that perhaps in this small species there was a power the galaxy had yet to fully recognize. The next wave of the Vorath swarm would come soon. And when it did, Zyra would be ready not to laugh but to witness. The alarm sirens continued to wail as the Vorath swarm pressed their attack. Captain Elias Kane moved swiftly, his eyes scanning the battlefield with the precision of a seasoned strategist. Humans were scattered across the base, some tending to the wounded, others manning defensive positions. But Kane's calm presence acted like a magnet, drawing them together, giving them purpose in the chaos. Zyra leaned over the edge of the observation deck, her violet eyes fixed on the battlefield. She had expected humans to falter, to run in panic, perhaps even to be slaughtered. Instead, she saw order amid chaos, strategy where there should have been confusion, courage in the face of overwhelming odds. Her disbelief lingered like a shadow. "Observe carefully," one of her aides whispered. This species is unusual. Yet every move Kane made pulled her attention further. He sprinted across open ground, narrowly avoiding a blast from a Voreth energy cannon, and without hesitation, directed two soldiers to flank the enemy. The precision and timing of his instructions were flawless. One squad of humans found themselves trapped in a narrow corridor of the base, with a Voreth raider blocking the exit. Panic should have set in, Zyra thought. Instead, Kane appeared at the corridor entrance, moving with calm confidence. He raised his weapon, taking precise aim. A burst of energy struck the raider just as it lunged. Kane then gestured for the humans to retreat through a side exit he had spotted. Every movement was calculated, yet seemed effortless. Zyra's pride pricked at the edges of her mind. She had grown up believing humans were weak, incapable of true heroism, and yet here they were, defying her assumptions at every turn. Captain Kane was not just surviving, he was leading, protecting, and inspiring his team to accomplish the impossible. Outside the base, the Voreth swarm had regrouped. Their massive ships hovered in formation, launching a barrage of plasma missiles toward the human defenses. Most of the base's structures were built with efficiency in mind, not for enduring such an assault. Kane moved among the soldiers, issuing rapid-fire orders. Move the energy shields to cover the northern perimeter. Divert power to the flak cannons. Keep civilians inside the reinforced bunkers. For the first time, Zyra began to sense a truth in the human warrior myths. Humans were not strong in the traditional sense, but they possessed something far more dangerous: intelligence, courage, and adaptability. A Voreth raider, larger and more powerful than the rest, broke through the defensive line. Its claws ripped through the barricades as it charged toward a group of human soldiers. Kane was already moving, positioning himself between the creature and his team. He dodged its first strike, then vaulted onto a nearby platform, using momentum to strike the raider in a vulnerable spot. The creature roared in frustration, and the soldiers seized the moment to finish it off. Zyra leaned closer, her hand gripping the railing. She could feel the intensity of the battle, the tension in every motion, the stakes in every decision. Kane was a whirlwind of action and strategy, yet he never seemed panicked. Every decision was precise, every move calculated, yet instinctive. She could not look away. The humans were not alone in this fight. Drones patrolled the perimeter, automated turrets fired in synchronized patterns, and communication relays ensured that every unit knew the enemy's position. But it was Kane's leadership that turned these tools into a symphony of resistance. He moved from point to point, correcting mistakes, boosting morale, and ensuring that every human soldier knew their role. Zyra felt a shift in her own perception. What she had thought were myths were not fabrications. Humans were indeed warriors, not in the way her people were trained, but in a way that was unpredictable, resourceful, and astonishing. Every strike, every tactic, every act of bravery she witnessed confirmed it. Suddenly, Kane noticed a group of Voreth raiders attempting to flank the base. With lightning reflexes, he grabbed a communicator. Squad Delta moved to intercept. Squad Echo, cover the rear. I'll handle the center. His voice was calm, yet commanding, cutting through the chaos like a blade. The flanking maneuver was nearly catastrophic, but Kane's foresight saved the day. The humans adjusted, setting traps, using the terrain, and coordinating their attacks. Zyra watched, amazed, as a few soldiers used improvised weapons to disable an alien vehicle, while another group created diversions that confused the Voreth raiders. Kane moved among them, encouraging, correcting, and acting as the fulcrum of their defense. One particular moment struck Zyra deeply. A young human soldier, clearly inexperienced, froze under fire. Kane sprinted to her side, guiding her hands, giving her instructions in real time. The soldier's eyes widened as she executed a maneuver she thought impossible, taking down a raider and saving her squad. Kane smiled briefly at her before moving on, never stopping, never faltering. The battle raged for hours, and yet Kane never seemed tired. He was a force that inspired humans to rise above their fears, to act with courage they did not know they possessed. Zyra began to feel a strange admiration, mixed with a twinge of envy. She had been trained from birth, honed for combat, yet this human moved with a combination of instinct, intelligence, and courage that was almost alien in itself. A massive Vorath assault threatened the main control tower, the heart of the base's defenses. Kane assessed the situation quickly, identifying weak points and vulnerable areas. He coordinated an all-out counterattack, using humans as bait to lure raiders into traps, while simultaneously directing precision strikes from drones and turrets. The tower was damaged but held, thanks to Kane's foresight. Zyra's companions whispered among themselves. "How is he doing this?" one asked. "They should have fallen long ago." The humans were alive not because of their weapons, but because of their spirit, adaptability, and the leadership of one extraordinary individual. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with hues of orange and purple, Kane noticed something. The Vorath were regrouping for a final push. He turned to his soldiers, his voice steady and strong. "Hold your ground, fight together. We are humans and we survive." Kane moved at the center of the battlefield, a beacon of focus and strategy. His soldiers followed him without hesitation, trusting his instincts, mirroring his actions and executing maneuvers that were almost too clever to anticipate. Zyra could not tear her eyes away. She had laughed at the myths, mocked the stories, and expected disappointment. Now she felt something she had never felt before: respect, perhaps even awe. The myths of human warriors were true, she realized, though not in the way her people had imagined. Humans were not just physically strong, they were courageous, inventive, and capable of rising above the impossible. The first wave of the Vorath finally began to retreat, beaten back by the coordinated human defense. The base was battered, some structures damaged, and many humans were injured, but they stood victorious. Kane moved among them, checking for injuries, offering words of encouragement and quietly ensuring the safety of all. Zyra straightened, stepping back from the railing. Her mind raced with thoughts she could barely articulate. Humans were extraordinary. Kane was extraordinary. She had come to witness weakness, but she had found legendary courage instead. As night fell and the battlefield quieted, Zyra realized something profound. The stories, the myths, the laughter, they had all been misplaced. Humans were not weak. They were more than capable. They were warriors, not in the traditional sense of her world, but in a way that was unpredictable, brilliant, and utterly human. And for the first time in her life, Zyra wanted to see what came next. The battlefield lay in chaos. Smoke curled from damaged buildings, scorch marks streaked the metal floors, and distant explosions echoed through the night. Yet amidst the destruction, the humans held their ground. Captain Elias Kane moved with the precision of a master, his mind racing faster than the enemy could anticipate. Zyra watched from above, her violet eyes wide with disbelief. The human warrior she had laughed at, the creature she had considered weak, had surpassed every expectation. The Vorath swarm had regrouped, larger and more vicious than before. Their ships hovered low, sending squads of raiders to infiltrate the human base. These were no ordinary soldiers. They were elite warriors trained for destruction, designed to crush civilizations without mercy. Most observers would have expected the humans to falter here, but Kane had already anticipated this move. He sprinted across the battlefield, dodging blasts of energy and debris from explosions. He shouted commands that carried over the chaos, sharp and clear. Squad Alpha, reinforce the eastern barrier. Squad Beta, prepare traps at the northern gate. Squad Gamma, flank from the west. Move now. His soldiers obeyed immediately, trusting his every decision. Even in the face of overwhelming odds, there was no hesitation. Zyra's lips parted in surprise. Humans did not panic. Humans did not freeze. They adapted. They fought with creativity, using the environment to their advantage. A group of soldiers lured a squad of Voreth raiders into a narrow alley where automated turrets fired precise bursts that decimated the enemy. Another group pushed damaged supply crates to create barricades, giving them cover while they returned fire. Kane noticed a Voreth raider preparing a devastating strike at a group of human engineers repairing a communications relay. Without hesitation, he leapt into action. His movements were fluid, almost dance-like. He dodged a swipe of the raider's claw, rolled beneath its legs, and struck its exposed flank with a reinforced strike baton. Sparks flew, and the creature stumbled, giving the engineers just enough time to escape. Zyra felt her chest tighten. She had expected chaos, failure, and human weakness. Instead, she saw heroism, ingenuity, and courage beyond measure. The humans were not only surviving, they were thriving under pressure, turning the tide of battle with every move. But Kane's greatest challenge was yet to come. A massive Voreth commander, towering over its soldiers and wielding an energy weapon of incredible power, appeared at the center of the battlefield. Its presence alone made the ground tremble. Many humans froze, unsure how to confront such a foe. Kane assessed the situation quickly, calculating the risks, the possible outcomes, and the enemy's weaknesses. He didn't hesitate. Kane darted toward the Voreth commander, leading a small strike team. He avoided its powerful swings, countering with precise strikes at vulnerable joints. The battle was intense, almost too fast for Zyra's eyes to follow. Sparks, energy blasts, and metal clashed in a deadly rhythm. Yet Kane's mind remained calm, guiding his team, correcting mistakes, and exploiting every opportunity. Zyra couldn't help but lean closer. Her pride, her preconceived notions about humans were crumbling. The myths had been true, but in ways she had never imagined. Humans were not the physically strongest, but they were masters of adaptability, strategy, and courage under fire. Kane was living proof of that truth. During the fight, Kane noticed that the commander's movements were predictable. He whispered instructions to his team, barely audible over the battle noise. Trap its left side. Distract it with energy blasts. Aim for the joint near the shoulder. The humans followed flawlessly. With a combined effort, they forced the massive Voreth to stumble, giving Kane the opening he needed. He struck with a reinforced baton, targeting a critical weak spot. Sparks erupted, and the creature roared in pain. Zyra felt a shiver run down her spine. This small human, whom she had once dismissed, was holding his own against a creature designed to destroy civilizations. His courage was undeniable, his intelligence unmatched. For the first time, Zyra realized that humans were not merely survivors, they were legends in their own right. Yet Kane did not stop there. He moved to the rear of the commander, signaling to a soldier carrying a plasma net. Timing it perfectly, Kane distracted the creature while the soldier ensnared it. The Voreth commander struggled, but Kane's team held it in place, giving Kane the chance to deliver the final, precise strike. The creature collapsed, defeated. The battlefield fell silent for a moment. Humans had survived the wave that should have crushed them. Kane checked on his soldiers, ensuring no one was gravely injured. His calm, commanding presence reassured them, strengthened them, and gave them hope. Zyra realized then that this was the true power of a human warrior, their ability to inspire courage and lead under impossible odds. She stepped back from the railing, her mind racing. She had watched battles across galaxies, seen countless warriors fight and die, yet none had moved her like this human had. The legends of her people had always spoken of strength, speed, and raw power. Kane's strength was different. It was the strength of heart, mind, and spirit combined. As the Voreth retreated, leaving behind their fallen and their wounded, Kane moved among his team. He offered words of encouragement, helped those who were injured, and ensured that everyone was accounted for. The humans had won, not by luck, not by brute force, but by their ingenuity, courage, and teamwork, guided by one extraordinary leader. Zyra's pride had been replaced by a strange sense of admiration. She had expected to laugh at human weakness, but she had found something far greater: proof that humans were capable of greatness beyond imagination. Her mind replayed every move Cain had made, every strategy he had employed, every risk he had taken. She realized that she had witnessed something extraordinary, something the galaxy had underestimated for too long. Her companions whispered among themselves, still skeptical, still unsure how to process what they had seen. Zyra ignored them. She was no longer laughing, no longer mocking. She had seen the truth of the human warrior myths. Humans were not weak, clumsy, or incapable. They were resilient, clever, and fearless. As night deepened, Cain stood at the center of the battlefield, surveying the aftermath. The humans had suffered losses, but they had also proved themselves worthy of the legends. Zyra's thoughts were consumed by one realization. The myths she had dismissed were not only true, they had underestimated the magnitude of their truth. Zyra's mind wandered to her own people, to her world of towering warriors and advanced technology. They had strength, yes, but Cain had something more. Something intangible yet undeniable. It was courage, it was ingenuity, it was the ability to rise above impossible odds. She had seen it with her own eyes. The humans gathered around Cain, their faces a mix of exhaustion and pride. They had faced overwhelming odds and survived, not through luck, but through skill, bravery, and determination. Zyra's respect for them grew with each passing moment. She had come expecting failure and found legendary heroism instead. And yet, she could not shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. The Vorath would return, stronger, more prepared, more dangerous. But Cain had shown what humans were capable of. If they could survive this, they could survive anything. Zyra realized then that she wanted to see more. She wanted to witness the humans at their best, to see their courage tested to the limit. She wanted to understand what made them extraordinary. The myths had been true, but Cain had made them real in a way no story ever could. As she stepped back from the observation deck, she knew one thing for certain. The galaxy had underestimated humans for too long. And the stories, the laughter, the disbelief, they were about to change forever. The battle had ended, but the legend of the human warrior had only just begun. Zyra would carry the memory of what she had seen, a memory that would shape her view of humanity forever. She had laughed at the myths, dismissed the stories, and doubted their truth. But now she could never doubt again. Humans were warriors, true and undeniable, and Captain Elias Cain was living proof of their greatness. The battlefield was quiet now, but not silent. The wreckage of Vorath's ships and broken structures littered the base, smoke curling into the night sky. The humans had survived the onslaught, but the cost was visible: injured soldiers, scorched earth, and a lingering tension that clung to every corner. Captain Elias Cain moved among his team, his calm presence a steadying force for those who trembled or faltered. Zyra watched from the observation deck, her violet eyes fixed on him, and for the first time she felt the depth of her admiration, not just for Cain, but for all of humanity. The Vorath had retreated for now, but they were not gone. Their ships still patrolled the outer reaches of the battlefield, circling like predators that had tasted defeat. Cain gathered his officers, speaking in low, precise tones. "We hold the perimeter, repair the defenses, and prepare for their return. They will not give up easily, but neither will we. Humans survive because we adapt, because we fight together, because we never quit." Even the exhausted, wounded humans lifted their heads, their resolve renewed. Cain's leadership was not only tactical, it was inspiring. He reminded them of their courage when they could not see it themselves, of their strength when doubt crept in. Zyra's gaze softened. She had expected to witness weakness. Instead, she had seen the embodiment of heroism, heart, and resilience. Zyra descended from the observation deck, moving closer to the battlefield despite her retinue's murmured objections. She wanted to see the humans up close, to witness the aftermath of their courage. She passed injured soldiers being treated by medics and others repairing damaged equipment. Every human she observed bore the scars of battle, yet none wavered in spirit. They were tired, yes, but not broken. They were alive, and more importantly, they were unbowed. Kane noticed her approaching. He had seen alien observers before, but her presence felt different, focused, intentional, curious. He did not pause in his duties, yet he turned slightly, acknowledging her with a respectful nod. Zyra felt a flutter of something unfamiliar, a hint of connection. She realized she was no longer a detached observer. She was a witness to legend in motion, and perhaps something more profound. The Voreth commander, the massive creature Kane had faced earlier, was still alive but trapped in the outer perimeter. Its movements were slow, and it struggled against the human-engineered restraints. Kane approached it cautiously, signaling to a small team. "Ensure it is secured, but do not destroy it," he said. "We need to learn from them as much as they can learn from us." She felt her previous assumptions crumble completely. Humans were not just strong, they were exceptional in ways the galaxy had underestimated. As the soldiers worked, Kane moved among his team, checking on the wounded, offering words of encouragement, and quietly instructing repairs on defensive systems. Zyra observed every action, every gesture, and her admiration deepened. There was no arrogance in him, no false pride, just focus, compassion, and the unyielding drive to protect his people. He was not only a warrior, he was a leader who inspired greatness in others. Night had fallen completely, and the first stars began to twinkle above. The battlefield, once chaotic, now seemed almost serene. Fires still burned here and there, but the human spirit was undimmed. Kane paused for a moment, surveying the scene. He saw the ruined structures, the damaged vehicles, the exhausted soldiers, but he also saw something else: resilience, determination, humanity's indomitable will to survive and thrive. Zyra stepped closer, finally speaking aloud, though her voice was low. "I underestimated you," she said, almost to herself. "I laughed at the myths, and yet they are true. Humans are warriors in ways I did not understand. We may not be the largest or the fastest, but we survive because we fight together, because we think, because we never give up." Humans were not merely surviving in this galaxy, they were shaping it in ways others could not foresee. Over the following hours, Kane coordinated the cleanup and defense preparations. The Voreth could return at any moment, but the humans were ready. They had learned from the battle, adapted their strategies, and strengthened their positions. Kane moved among them, ensuring no detail was overlooked, no soldier left behind. Every action he took reinforced the lesson Zyra had learned. Human strength was not measured by size or firepower, but by courage, intelligence, and unity. Zyra's companions whispered again, trying to interpret what they had witnessed. "They survived against impossible odds," one murmured. Perhaps the stories were true. As dawn approached, casting a soft light over the battlefield, Kane gathered his team for a final briefing. He spoke with quiet authority, praising their efforts, acknowledging their sacrifices, and reminding them of their ongoing duty. The humans listened intently, absorbing every word, inspired by the example he set. Zyra watched silently, realizing that the human warrior's true power was not in a single battle, but in the ability to uplift and empower others. For a long moment, she allowed herself to simply observe. The humans repaired their defenses, tended to the injured, and prepared for the inevitable next challenge. Kane moved among them like a steady anchor in a storm, guiding, supporting, and protecting. Zyra's admiration turned into respect, and that respect began to grow into something deeper, a desire to understand this species, to witness more of their greatness, to see what they could achieve when pushed to their limits. Finally, Zyra approached Kane directly. Her steps were cautious but purposeful, her retinue falling back to allow her space. Kane looked up, his expression calm but curious. "You've watched closely," he said simply. "I have," Zyra admitted. "I came expecting to see weakness, to laugh at the myths. Instead, I have seen strength, courage, leadership. Humans are extraordinary." "We are not perfect," he said, "but we fight, we adapt, we survive, and we fight not for glory but to protect those who cannot protect themselves." They were a testament to the indomitable spirit of humanity. The sun rose fully, casting golden light over the battlefield. The Voreth had retreated for now, but the humans were prepared. Cain stood at the center of the base, surveying the repaired defenses and the soldiers under his command. Zyra stepped back slightly, allowing herself one final observation. The humans were alive, resilient, and capable of greatness. And Captain Cain had shown the galaxy exactly why humans should never be underestimated. Zyra's heart lifted with a strange sense of hope. She had come expecting to witness failure, but instead she had seen the birth of legend. Humans were not just survivors. They were heroes in the truest sense, capable of defying odds, inspiring courage, and changing the course of the galaxy. As she prepared to leave the base and return to her people, Zyra knew that the story she had witnessed would follow her forever. She would speak of it, share it, and perhaps even protect humans in ways her people had never considered. She had laughed at the myths, yes, but now she would ensure that the truth of human warriors, their bravery, ingenuity, and heart, would never be doubted again. And somewhere in the back of her mind, Zyra smiled. She had come as a skeptic. She would leave as a believer, forever changed by the courage of a small species that had faced the impossible and triumphed. The legend of the human warrior, led by Captain Elias Cain, had been proven, and the galaxy would never look at humanity the same way again.